Okay, here's a technical one for you. Do you have your own domain and email hosted with a provider? You have your own email address and you have your own hosting with the provider? Listen up. Because if you do, there's a good chance somebody can send an email that looks like it came from you, even though you never sent it. And that's exactly what happened to me. I started getting these really disgusting scam emails appearing to come from my own address. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I didn't send this. How are they getting through? And I look at, I started digging and it looked like it came from me. So it says, what I found out was pretty interesting. And it led me down a rabbit hole involving something called SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, DMARC. So let me explain what happened. If you already know about these types of things, you go ahead and put a comment in there in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. What was happening? These emails were basically extortion scams. They say something like, your computer has been affected, I have access to your camera, I recorded you, and if you don't send me Bitcoin, I'm going to send this video to everybody you know. Obviously, I didn't send the email. But when I looked at the sender, it appeared to be coming from my own domain, and that's just the part that gets your attention. Because if you're not familiar with how email works, you might immediately think, oh crap, somebody has hacked my email account. And that's not necessarily what's happening. There is a difference between somebody actually logging into your email account and somebody spoofing your email address. What is spoofing? Here's the easiest way I can explain it. Think about a physical letter. You can put my name and address on the return of an envelope. That doesn't mean I actually mailed the letter. Email works the same way. A scammer can tell the receiving mail server, hey, this is email from Seth, but that doesn't necessarily mean the message actually came from my mail server, and that's exactly what I found. I went into the headers of the message, and the important thing about the email headers is that they show you the path the message actually took, and when I looked at mine, I could see the message was coming from a completely different server, so somebody was basically saying, I'm Seth from Solarbluseth. But my mail server could look at where the message actually come from and say, wait a minute, you're not the servers authorized to send mail for Seth. And that's where the SPF comes in. SPF stands for Sender Policy Framework, and don't let the name scare you. It's actually a pretty simple idea. You publish a record on your domain's DNS. That's where you register your domain name by. Number one tip, control your domain name. These are the servers that are allowed to send email for your domain name. That's it. So imagine I own solarblue.net. I might have email hosted by a particular provider. That provider has specific mail servers. So my SPF record tells the rest of the internet, these are the servers that I authorize to send email on my behalf. Then somebody on the other side of the world sends an email claiming to be from me. The receiving server can check the SPF record and it looks like the message comes from. It says, nope, that server is not authorized. That's SPF. But here's where I made an interesting discovery. The SPF was already configured, but I had something called a tilde all at the end of my SPF record. That's it, a tilde and all. And that means a soft fail. So basically I was telling receiving servers if something isn't authorized, that's suspicious, but I wasn't giving them the strongest possible instruction. And that's what this is important. There's a difference between a tilde all and a hyphen all. The tilde means this didn't pass, treat it with suspicion. The dash means this didn't pass, it's not authorized. So all those messages would just get bounced out if I used the right tilde. So I changed my configuration to use dash all after making sure I had accounting for the legitimate systems that actually send mail for my domain. And that's a much stronger statement, but SPF isn't the whole story. And this is where I discovered that email authentication is actually a little more complicated because SPF is only one piece of the puzzle. There's also DKIM. It stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. Instead of simply asking, did this email come from an authorized server, DKIM adds a digital signature to the email. The receiving server can check the signature against information published in your DNS. So now you've got another way of verifying the message is legitimate. And then there's the big one, DMARC. DMARC stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance. That's a horrible name, but the basic idea is pretty easy. DMARC lets the owner of a domain tell receiving mail servers, if someone sends an email claiming to be from my domain name and it doesn't authenticate correctly, here's what I want you to do. You can start by monitoring. So My domain was in monitoring mode, and that's why I was receiving all these messages, even though they were flagged appropriately. We will get back into that. So you can tell the servers to quarantine specific messages, or you can tell them to reject it. So what happened to my scam email? Well, that's actually the cool part. I went back and looked at the headers, and the message claiming being to me the sender server wasn't authorized. My SPF check showed a soft fail, and my spam filtering system also recognized a bunch of other things that were wrong with the message. It was known as a Bitcoin extortion scam. The sending IP had a bad reputation. The message contained a Bitcoin address that appeared on spam block lists. The spam engine gave it a score of 45.7, and it ended up in my spam system. So the security mechanisms were already doing something, but looking at the header made me realize something important. I can tighten up my domain's authentication, so that's what led me to change the SPF policy. And it also got me looking more closely at DKIM and DMARC. Does this mean your mail was hacked? This is probably the most important thing I want people to understand. If you got an email that appears to come from yourself, don't automatically assume that your account is hacked. It could be simply spoofing. Email spoofing. It made to look like it came from you. It's an envelope that has a return address that is not correct. So look at the headers. You look at the authentication results, check your account login history with your email provider. If there's no suspicious logins or messages come from unrelated mail server, there's a good chance you're looking at spoofing rather than somebody actually having your password. Of course, if you do see suspicious activity, change your password and investigate immediately. But don't panic because the from address says your own name. What you should do, if you own a domain name and you have email hosted somewhere, here's what I recommend. First, check your SPF record. Find out which systems are actually authorized to send email for your domain. Second, make sure your DKIM is enabled. Your email provider should be able to tell you how to configure it. Third, set up DMARC. If you don't know exactly what legitimate systems are sending mail for your domain, don't immediately jump into the most aggressive policy. Monitor first, find out what's legitimate, then tighten the policy, because the goal isn't just to make your domain look secure. The goal is to make sure your legitimate email continues to work while making it much harder for somebody else to impersonate you. The bigger lesson, and honestly, this is why digging into this stuff. I started with, why the hell am I getting these disgusting emails from myself? And that turned into, wait, somebody is spoofing my domain? And why didn't SPF stop it? Oh, because I'm using ~all. And suddenly I'm learning more about SPF, DKIM, DMARC, DNS mail headers, mail scoring, authentication, spoofing, and that's the interesting part of technology. Sometimes you don't learn something because you're taking a course. Sometimes you learn it because something breaks or somebody tries to abuse your system, and you decide to figure out exactly what happened. So if you own a domain, I strongly recommend checking your email authentication, because if you're getting emails from yourself that you never want, you might not have been hacked. You might have been spoofed, and there's something you can do about that. I put a full write-up on my website, solarblue.net. You go ahead and click on news, and you can get the newest article that we have published about things like email spoofing. I hope you found this video interesting. You go right ahead and hit thumbs up, and buyer beware, don't be trying to send me no emails anymore through your weird servers. Blockity block block block.